and also Dr. Ridaullah Sehrari, the curator of the Peshawar Museum, Pakistan, to come to the head table. Before I hand over the mic to the chair, I've got a small announcement to make. And this announcement is about this evening's dinner and reception hosted by the Ministry of Culture and Arts and jointly with the Ministry of National Heritage at the Jan Kala Kendra, Batramola, which is about 8 or 9 kilometers from this place. The transport will be provided after the end of the academic sessions today. At 6:50, the transport would leave, so you have got some time in between before the end of the session if they don't overshoot, and the departure of the bus. So, looking forward to your participation, active participation in the session, and also at the reception this evening. Thank you very much. Dr. Subedi, please.
Transport will leave from where?
Thank you.
Please act from here.
Yeah. So thank you, Dr. Sanjay Dutt. So good afternoon, all of you. And I think we start the fifth session. And in fifth session, 2 papers are going to be presented. One from Dr. Fazal Daud Kharar, and next one is Nidaullah Sehrari. So first I would like to request to present paper Dr. Fazal Daud Kharar, Director General of Archaeology, Department of Archaeology, Pakistan, and his paper is Overview of Archaeological Research in Gandhara region. So I would like to request to Dr. Fazal, please.
Thank you, sir, for giving me the floor. And good afternoon, everybody present here in the hall. My topic is overview of archaeological research in Gandhara region. Most probably, so many people present here in this hall don't know what is Gandhara or what is the Gandhara region. So Gandhara, as you can see on the map, is an ancient name of the tract of country on the west bank of the Indus River, which comprises the Peshawar Valley and the modern Sawat, Junair and Bajwar. It was a country with rich, well-watered valleys, clear-cut hills and a pleasant climate, being a borderland between the highlands of Central Asia and alluvium plains of the Indus and Ganga river system. Its ancient history belongs as much and as little to the one as to the other. Now the land of Gandhara forms part of Pakistan's Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province. The nature has beautifully defined the boundaries of Gandhara from. Oh, why the map is changed? Please don't change the map. Nature has beautifully defined the boundaries of Gandhara from north, eastern and western side. The land of Gandhara are walled by the high ranges of Hindu Kush and Karakoram, while to the south its hilly tracts gradually merge in the plate alluvial Indus Valley, providing access to Afghanistan and Central Asia through narrow passes. These passes served as caravan trade routes and played an important role in commercial and cultural exchange between subcontinent China and Western world. Historic period of Gandhara start. Now you can change. Historic period of Gandhara start after its annexation to the Persian Empire in the times of Cyrus the Great. It is around 558 and up to 28 BC. At that time, it was called 7th province of Persia. In the 4th century BC, the lands of Gandhara witnessed the invasion of Alexander the Great from Macedonia. Alexander's successor Seleucus Nicator cited it in the year 305 BC to the Indian king Chandragupta Maurya, who laid foundation of the Mauryan Empire. The most important king of Mauryan dynasty was Ashoka the Great, who converted to Buddhism in 262 BC. And under his royal patronage, Buddhism flourished in the whole Gandhara region. After death of Ashoka in 237 BC, his empire rapidly disintegrated in around 190 BC. Gandhara again conquered by Bactrian Greeks. Then came early in the 1st century BC the victorious Sakas or Scythians to be followed. After yet another century by the Parthians and Kushans, far in the 3rd century AD, Gandhara region again revolted to Persia, now under Sassanid sovereigns, and was again reconquered by Kidra Kushans in the 4th. Finally, the death blow to its prosperity was given by the Hephthalites or White Huns, who swept over the country about AD 465, carrying fire and sword wherever they went and destroying the Buddhist monasteries. With such a long history of foreign invasion and trade relation with Western world, the people of Gandhara were thoroughly cosmopolitan in their culture and outlook. This intimate fusion of widely divergent element was equally apparent in the religious life of the people. In such a favorable environment, the Buddhist art of Gandhara emerged in the 2nd century AD as a blend of local and Greco-Roman ideas and techniques. This socio-religious art reached to its climax under the patronage of the Kushanas and their successors. The most favorite subject of the sculptors of Gandhara was the Lord Buddha, his life stories and his faith, but they also portray secular scenes and social life of their time in their work. Initially, the medium of sculpture art appears to have been exclusively the great schist as witnessed in the Buddhist sites of Texala, Peshawar, Mardan, Malakan, Dir, Sawat and Pune region. But then other kinds of locally available stone like pyrite, soapstone, green schist, colorite, etc. were also used for carving sculpture along with the more plastic stucco and terracotta. Demand of Buddhist sculpture to decorate the innumerable monasteries and stupas thickly dotted the whole Gandhara region. Besides sculpture, the architecture of Gandhara also has a marked character of its own composition in nature and scope, lending toward Ionic and Doric style of classical Greek. The city plan of Sirkap in Texala, the remains of religious establishments, stupas and monasteries at Dharmarajika, Jolia, Jinawali Devi, Badarpur, etc. So, I don't want to entangle you with all these things, but now I am going to show the real sites and picture because the article is very lengthy. So I think I will give a little bit presentation on the screen. Now it is the pre-independence. No, please. You put the historical background of the Gandhara region. Yes, pre-independence. Now, initial work of immature archaeologists. His work was first by General Ventura and General Cote. They were French and Italian nationals respectively, who were employed in the army of Maharaja Ranjit Singh, excavated Mankyala Stupa in 1880, Sherbalor and Takht Bai in 1836. The photo will be followed. Please, next. Next. No, so this is Mankyala Stupa. You can see this was first excavated by General Ventura. He was a general in the Sikh government under Ranjit Singh. The next. cerebellum, you can see. Next. So this was the method of excavation with two plates and doing this. Because this is very old photographs of glass plate negative. So next. This is with the image of cerebellum in that period. Next, and now you can see from the votive stupa, the image of Buddha is by using sa. So this is next. So this you can see the British are there. It is immature excavation by somebody there. They are making picnic. And this is the famous Tatbai sites. Next. So this is after systematic excavation. This is Tatbai site. Next. So you can see the page. This is the Deer Mound, Texala Museum. This is the Sikap city, 2nd century. You can see very well planned. Next, this is the fortification of third capital city in the Gandhara region. Written Padar Greek. So this is the famous Dharmaradhika stupa built by Ashoka the Great. This is another stupa and monastery of Joya in Texala region of Pakistan. This is Mola Murado in Texala region. This is Bala Stupa also in Texala region. Bamala Stupa Texala. Look at the scenery behind, there is a lake, and this stupa is located in very picturesque place. Next. So now is the post-independence work, archaeological or Buddhist archaeological work in Pakistan. The first it was started by Italian archaeological mission in Sawar. It was in 1956 and it is still going on there. The second foreign mission is next. This is the Japanese archaeological mission of Tokyo University. They worked in Pakistan and in Chankarderi, Makasanda and Tareli. And there was another Japanese mission headed by Professor Koji Nishikawa and later on by Professor Masaya Masuri of Nara Women University. Next please. So this is stupa from Sawar, the Italian work here, and they excavated this site. Next. This is Saidu stupa. This is also done by Italian archaeological mission. This is Barikot settlement site, Bazira. It is also done by Italian archaeological mission. Next. This is Zarodere, which is done by the archaeological mission of Tokyo National Museum. A very beautiful sculpture was recovered from there, you can see in this picture. Next. So this is the work of Department of Archaeology of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, formerly Northwestern Frontier Province, and Peshawar Museum. Next. They have excavated at Kashmir's Mast, Butkara Tand, all these sites in Sawat and these areas. Next. So this is a photograph of Butkara Tand in Sawat Saidu Sharif. See. Next. So this is the archaeological work by the Department of Archaeology Museum, which means by my department, not by the So you can see on this side. Again, because it was impossible to give the whole photograph, so I just reduced it to some photographs. Next, please. Next. Next. So now it is as per Tim, the recent excavation done by the department. Please next. This is the name of the area. So now this is tucked by, because tucked by, please stop. Stop. Once again. There is no pointer. Leave the pointer. This is the old site, as you have seen British time they have excavated. But in the same area here, from here, this is the new one which are excavated this area in 2005 and 2006. Next. So this is, as you know, before excavation, the grid system. Next. This is after excavation. Next. This is again further. Next. Next. We are just gradually descending on the side of Salah. Oh, Takbari, sorry. Next. 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 Or you can see the new site of Takbari emerging. Next. 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 So the material recovered from this side, you can see the photograph.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Next.
Can you go slow, please?
No, little
Go
slow.
slow, go slow.
Go slow.
Go slow.
Maybe a few slides back
That is also.
from that Kandara Buddha.
Look, you can see because most expert with the religion there was some expert believed that these stones were used for exercise also with religious
Mike. Mike.
You can see there.
Sorry, we couldn't hear. We couldn't hear.
We can use the
Use the mic.
These objects are this stone because with the hand here, one hand here and here, this is for exercise also, and here is Dharma Chakra also you can see.
look like relate to something rather than exercise. Maybe a relate of some deposit.
No, because it is not only here. These are I brought from New York the same thing which was illegally excavated, and these articles were built illegally in New York under the UNESCO convention. I brought it, but this is from Takbari. So we discussed with the art historian and so many people. They said this object was used for exercise. So you can give another interpretation. As you said, it is perhaps lit. No, it's not lit.
How big is it? How big is it? Size?
As the size is about half meter.
What is the carving on the bottom?
Has it been identified?
Looks like a sword from this side.
Yeah.
Some sort of a weapon.
Weapon.
So it looks like a sleeping
Yeah, but it looks like a
head,
face.
yeah, head and
But in Buddhist mythology, we don't use weapon. It is not a weapon, but because some portion are missing or broken during excavation, so we can't very well define the sign. Is what is it? It looks like a weapon, but it is not a weapon.
How heavy is it? How heavy is it?
It is, I think, I have myself, I have taken, it was very heavy. So next please. Here during excavation I am visiting, it is not important. Next please. Oh, again the same thing. Next please. So this is UNESCO people, so-called UNESCO people, they are visiting it. So this is Jinnah Dairy because I have given as per theme the recent excavation. The department has excavated in 2002 up to 2008 at Jinnah Dairy. This stupa and monastery is located in Texala region near Islamabad. So next, this was the buried part. Hello, this is during excavation. This is monastery after excavation. This is the architecture type of architecture. Ashlar. Next. So they use the burnt brick also for the pond there. In each monastery we find in Pakistan or even in India here in Sri Lanka, you find a pond for ablution or for various purposes. So instead of stone they use the burnt brick here in this. In Sri Lanka of course they use too much burnt brick, but in Pakistan it is very rare. Next. So this is chronology or archaeological. Next. So this is charcoal. When in my speech I said that the White Huns burnt out all monasteries around 4th and 5th century AD, and they come for subcontinent. So this is charcoal. This was sculpture from Jinnah Dairy. This is stucco. It's not made by it's stucco sculpture, not of stone. Next. So these are the coils and next. So this is a very important, for such a reason I put this Jinnah Dairy. You see this plaster. As I said, in the old Gandhara region, in the Buddhist period, which is almost 1000 years in that region, and from there Buddhism of Mahayana went to China and Far East. When the monastery was burnt out by the White Huns, this plaster fell up. So we found first fresco painting or memorial in Gandhara region, the medium representation of Buddha. So please next. this is the fragment during excavation of that plaster fallen. Next. And now you can see the image fresco. So in Gandhara region, it is the first sign of fresco painting, representation of Buddha and other religious beliefs. And after here, I think it gone to Afghanistan region and to Xinjiang, like in Chinese Xinjiang region, in 1000 Cave, in Kupa, in Kucha region. If among you somebody visited China, Xinjiang region, so you can find the medium is mostly the fresco painting. So this from Afghanistan, Bamiyan. So from here, from Gandhara, because westward when the Buddhism went from Gandhara region and presently Bamiyan region, not only that which was shown in 2000, blown by, I don't know, by whom, by Taliban or by whom, but it is near there is some cave which you can find these painting. So it is a theory that after Gandhara, because these belong to later period, so it's with there such type of technique for representation of Buddhist images, and went to China also. So thank you. I have taken too much time of yours. Thank you.
So thank you, Dr. Fazal. So I'd like to open floor for a discussion. Then when we'll finish this discussion, then we'll switch to next speaker. Okay. So floor is open for question and discussion.
First of all, congratulations, Dr. Kakar, for bringing this new information to this August gathering. And I think under your stewardship, the Department of Archaeology has contributed something which is of permanent value, especially the frescoes in Gandhara. And we would look forward to its complete documentation and publication by your department. So I just have words of congratulations to you and to your department. And we commend your very good work.
Thank you for your appreciation, and I think we will try. And because there is some fragment which are still under treatment, and then when we will, because it is fragmented, so we will put together, and there will be complete documentation will be published.
In this regard, my request is that, if possible, if you can give this material to the SARC, and if they can distribute by way of email to all the participants, so it is a very good collection.
It is because there is some rules, regulation about these things.
We exact.
Dr. Sanjay will explain.
We don't promote or recommend the movement of antiquities from their place of origin. But what we possibly Mr. Bansali from Gujarat was intending to say was that whether this presentation could be shared by all the scholars. So yes, we intend to bring out a proceeding volume of the papers presented in the seminar, and we would like to include every slide that you have shown here, no matter how much does it cost. But it is a very good visual record of excellent work which the Department of Archaeology has been doing.
No, as you are aware, Dr. Sanjay, it was done in very hurry, and I was very seriously ill also after. So there is some mistake in this text I found today. So that will be corrected and given the final copy, and then and some photo will be added.
Wow, that's very
I was wondering, your excavation reports, are they already published, or are they going to be published in the near future? Because the Roman team works, I was able to get the reports from ECAO, but and then I've seen the Gandhara, the one which mostly has numismatics, but I haven't been able to get any of the archaeological reports, the scientific reports, which I would like to take a look if possible, especially about the Buddhist sites.
Of course, the Italian mission, the Japanese mission, all missions are required to submit the scientific report to the department, and either the department publish it or department allow that mission to publish it. But unfortunately, you know, there is since independence when the department inherited Archaeological Survey of India. So we changed the nomenclature, Department of Archaeology and Museum, but it is the same department like in India and even in here in Sri Lanka because they are the sister organization. So we started these all scientific excavation in a journal called Pakistan Archaeology. We have published so far about 38 volumes of this archaeology, but unfortunately, as in the SAARC countries, we feel some difficulties in administration and some financial things. So since 5 years, we did not publish this Pakistan archaeology, and we are still in a doldrum, and I hope in near future I will try to publish all these scientific reports, particularly of this Italian and Japanese missions and on some of these sites. And there is another mission working in our northern area, Gilgit-Baltistan, where is engraving petroglyphs, which we termed it. There is also some stupas and some Buddhist images. We are working with the Institute of Heidelberg University. Professor Karl Jetmar and our Professor Ahmad Asandani worked on it, and now the Professor Dr. Hukman is working then. So they have submitted to us their final reports, but as I said, due to our financial reason, we will do it, but don't worry, in near future. Okay, thank you.
I have a question regarding Taktiba. It's very exciting that you are excavating more of it. Could you tell us in brief what the relationship is between the part that you're excavating and the part that was excavated before?
They are the same period, they are not different. If you mean by that, there is no difference on that. But unfortunately, I will again, now I am not excavating because in 2010, we have made an amendment to the Constitution of Islamic Republic of Pakistan, which we call 18th Amendment. In this amendment, one clause was that we should devolve some power to the provinces. So we have devolved, and Mr. Nida, after he will be presenting, now he is in his control. So as they want, not mine. Thank you.
So I would like to first I would like to thank Dr. Kakkar, and second I would like to request Shirai, am I right? Yes, Shirai, and Niranda Shirai for his presentation.
Good afternoon, Assalamu alaikum. I'm Laula Serai, working as curator at Peshawar Museum. And what I have selected was that actually majority of the Indian scholars, people working on Buddhist art and architecture, they have already studied those things like Takhtabai, Jamalgari, the British, whatever they have excavated. So mostly the people, they know about those sites and whatever they have recovered from there, whether those were systematic or unsystematic, but at least they have got a contribution. So I'm not going to talk about that. And because the seminar or the conference is on the recent discoveries, so that's why mostly the people, they don't know about the recent work which is done in Pakistan. So that's why I have selected a topic of post-partition Buddhist archaeology of Gandhara. I'm not going into the details of history and the art and everything. First I will read out the paper and then I'm going to show you the slides, and I will discuss everything, whatever you want to know. And I will show you all the details of the different archaeological sites. But I have selected those sites which have got at least some sort of an architectural or some sort of relation with the art, which have got something new. So this is what I am going to talk about. And Gandhara, it's a brief introduction regarding Gandhara because mostly the people, they give it in their presentation. So Gandhara, the land of fragrance, was the ancient name of the Peshawar Valley. Its capitals were Pushkalavati, or the city of lotus flower, presently known as Charsadda, Pushpapur or Purushpapur, or the city of flowers, modern Peshawar, and Udhabandapur, the city of pots or pitchers, or modern Khan. Buddhism was introduced by Ashok Maurya. Buddhism was introduced during Ashok Maurya's time, who sent the monk Madhyantika, and whose first convert was at Salathura, the birthplace of Panini, who wrote the Sanskrit grammar. It became the second holy land of the Buddhists during Kanishka's rule, who established Kanishka Chaitya, from where Buddha bones were recovered by Dr. D.B. Spooner, who was also the curator of Peshawar Museum. And Kanishka Vihara at Peshawar became one of the most famous seats of Buddhist learning, where monks flocked from around the world to study the Dharma. And it is the place where Asanga, Vasubandhu, Manorit, Parsvika, they have studied at the monastery of Kanishka. It was in the 19th century antiquarian who brought to light the past history and fame of Gandhara to the world once again. It was the traveller accounts which made it easy for the scholars to identify the various places mentioned in their accounts. The other sites also yielded large number of antiquities in the form of relief panels containing the life story of the Buddha, which is the theme of Gandhara art. The theme of Gandhara art is the life story of Buddha, and they are carved in the relief panels. Decorative motifs carved with Buddha and Bodhisattva statues, gods and goddesses, items of daily use, and beautiful architecture which developed in the area and influenced the rest of the Buddhist world. The post-partition Buddhist archaeology in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa is mainly, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa is the new name of the former northwest frontier province. Like in India, you have got the northeast provinces, which was later on called Assam, Nagaland, and divided into different. So recently, last year, they have changed the name of the province, and now we are calling it the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. It is mainly dominated by three major areas of the province. I have divided whatever excavation has been done so far, so I have divided it into three major portions or three major areas. Swat and Bir, Peshawar Valley, Taxila and Mansehra. The three most important institutions involved in the whole process were the Department of Archaeology, University of Peshawar, Department of Archaeology and Museums, Government of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, and the recently established in around about 1994, they established the Directorate of Archaeology and Museums, Government of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. The first survey in Swat was carried out by Sir Orlstein in 1926. A detailed study and survey in the Swat Valley was carried out by Tucci and Dr. Domenico Facena of the Italian Archaeological Mission. with close collaboration with the Department of Archaeology and Museums, Government of Pakistan in 1956. The sites which were excavated by ISMEO, or now we call it ESAO, in the Swat Valley, they are Butkara 1, which is then Sadhu Stupa, Pan, Shnasha, Baligram, Malam Jaba, Gumbatuna, Nimogram, Barikot, Udigram, Balokali Gumbat. These are 11 sites which are so far excavated by them. I haven't mentioned the minor where they have excavated. There are a lot of other sites which are not part of the Buddhist period. They are belonging to Gandhara grave culture and other periods, so that's why I have not included those. The sites excavated by the Department of Archaeology, University of Peshawar in the Swat and Peer area are Butkara 3. This is one of the most important sites which was excavated by the department. And the Italians, they were quite unhappy because they were working for a long period over there, and they were not able, because it was nearby the site of Butkara 1, roughly it's about half a kilometer away from the site. And they haven't noticed it, and our university museum, majority of the collection that belongs to this site of Butkara 3. Then Shnasha, Gumbat, Marjane, Loiban, Gumbatke, Pataka, Chetpati, Andanderi, Chatpat, Bambolai, Bagrajai, Shalkandai. So these are the different sites, 23 sites which are excavated in the Swat and Dir area after the partition. The above-mentioned sites yielded large number of sculptures and items of daily use, which shows the simple but sophisticated life of the Buddhist monks. The beautiful layout of the main stupas, surrounded by votive stupas, having various shapes and features, the round hemispherical stupa converted into tower-like structures, and with the passage of time, pillars were added to the main structure. For example, around the Butkara 1, they are haphazard in part, the pillars are on the floor, and in Sadhu Stupa, they are on the top of, at the corner of the main stupa. The stupas became monumental structure. In the past, it was thought that the stupas were constructed in the open air, but at the site of Butkara 3, stupas are built in the shrines dug out in a mud cliff. At Marjane, special cells are constructed for the stupas. Monasteries around a square or rectangular courtyard became a permanent feature of Gandhara architecture, and the basic necessities were provided in it. The courtyards are either square or rectangular in shape, though not enough attention was given to the excavation in post-partition area, mostly because the people, they are interested in sculptures, so all the departments, they are mostly neglected to excavate the monasteries, and these are the places from where a lot of material regarding the monks and the scripts and these kind of things which can be recovered, and there are a lot of intact monasteries which can be excavated with the collaboration of the different departments which are working in Pakistan. The cells were provided with flat roofs supported by wooden pillars, beams and rafters, but these residential cells were also provided with domical roofs constructed in corbel technique. Many archaeological sites were excavated by the Department of Archaeology, University of Peshawar, under the guidance of late Professor Dr. Ahmad Hasandani. He was the person who established the first archaeology teaching department in Pakistan, and he was the person who excavated majority of the sites. Along with his first batch of students from the Department of Archaeology, University of Peshawar. Chakdara Museum is a provincial museum, and all the material recovered from these sites is in the museum, Taxila and Mansehra. Taxila is one of the most well-known areas in the subcontinent. History was largely, which was largely excavated in the pre-partition times. The sites which were excavated in the post-partition period are Jinnawali Deri, Jodiyan 2, Badalpur and Zarderi. It's both Zarderi is in Mansehra, the rest of the three is in the Taxila Valley. Now after the devolution, there are some sites which are in Taxila, in the Punjab province, the museum which has got a lot of antiquity from the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, so that is in the Punjab province, and some of the major sites which is now in our province, or it is the part of the Directorate of Archaeology and Museums. Jinnamawali Devi is the best preserved site in the post-partition period of Taxila Valley. The site was burned, which resulted in the preservation of some beautiful paintings, but in fragmentary form. Paintings are very rarely found in the Gandhara. There are two other places from where they have recovered paintings, and one is on the rock which is called, in Pushto they call it Patuano photo rocks. So it's near Kashmir's Mosque, and they have been, there is a book published on those paintings. So I will try to send it to the SARC Secretariat, and I will talk to the person if he is going to give it to the SARC Secretariat. Its location in the plain and the Bodhi stupas are properly laid out in the front of the main stupa. The typical Gandharan monastery can be found opposite to the main stupa. Zara Devi, it's one of the most important sites because of the stylistic characteristic of the sculptures, and opened a new chapter in the archaeology of Mansehra area. It is one of the largest stupas in the area, which was excavated by the Japanese mission, and large number of beautiful sculptures were recovered from the site. The sculptures are carved in a poor quality schist and shows a distinctive styles which cannot be found in the other parts of Gandhara. Huge monumental gable Chaitya arches type panels are carved with various secular scenes, and from the life of Buddha, majority of the sculptures were found from a room where they were stored either for reuse or were discarded and replaced by the new ones. And mostly the people, they thought that who are dealing with Gandhara art, that there is a distinctive style, or there is a one style which is going on in the whole area. But over here we have got a different style which is much more different than the typical Gandharan style. And the reuse, the concept of reuse, it is very clear that they were reusing all the sculptures again and again. It was not that once the stupa was reconstructed, so they have added new sculptures to those stupas. Peshawar Valley is one of the most unlucky part of the province, where one stood the Shaji Ki Deri. It's no more there, it's covered by the new houses, the same Kanishka monastery, it's gone. But archaeological sites in the Peshawar Valley remains the focus of excavators in the pre-partition era. Before 1906, the excavated material was shifted to the British Museum and various museums of India and Pakistan. After the partition, the below mentioned sites were excavated in the valley: Bala Hisar, Shekhan Deri, Hand, Aziz Deri, Gorgatri. All these 5 are settlement sites. And then there are some stupas and monasteries: Khanmai, Mekhasanda, Chanaka Deri, Usay Stupa, Tarali, Ranigat, and Baja Stupa, which is one of the most recent one excavated by the Directorate of Archaeology and Museums, Government of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. Last year they excavated the site of Baja. The first 5 are settlement sites. All are very important from excavation point of view. Bala Hisar, Shekhan Deri, Hand, and Gorgatri were excavated by the Department of Archaeology, University of Peshawar, and Gorgatri by the Directorate of Archaeology and Museums, Government of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. Bala Hisar was in collaboration with the Bradford University, and its settlement period is extended to the Achaemenian times. But the recent excavation have shown that its earliest period is belonging to the Gandhara grave culture. Previously they were saying that the earliest period belonged to the Achaemenian times. But some of the pottery which they have recovered during these excavations, so they thought that pottery is similar to the Gandhara grave culture, or mostly they associate this Gandhara grave culture to the Aryan period, which were recovered during 1993 and 95 excavation. Part of fortification wall and moat have also been recovered. Shekhan Deri, established by the Bactrian or Indo-Greeks, was one of the most important sites which was excavated by Professor Dr. A.H. Dani. This was one of his major contributions. It came to the notice that the city was well planned and the streets were cutting each other at right angle, or it can be called Sirkap of Gandhara, or on the western side of the river Indus. The site yielded large number of pottery, figurines, beads, and few sculptures of typical Gandharan style. The figurines included Baru ladies and which are famous all over the world. Hund or the ancient Uda Bandapur or the last capital of Gandhara is covered by fields and modern houses, but excavations at the sites was started in 1996 and are still in progress, which has produced large number of items of daily use, figurines, coins and pottery. The collected material is displayed in the new museum constructed on the bank of River Indus. It also provides a guest house facility for the researchers and scholars. Aziz Deli is one of the most important settlement sites excavated by the Directorate of Archaeology and Museum, Government of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, from where a main stupa and votive stupas have been recovered, decorated with beautiful stucco and stone sculptures, and traces of paintings were found during excavation. Though they are not that much beautiful kind of painting which Dr. Kakar Saab has shown you of Jinnah Devi, but simply they have painted the lotus flowers and these kind in a very rough or crude form. And all the finds are lying in the stores of the Directorate, and 3 volumes of sculptured coins have been published so far. The pre-partition various settlements of Muhammad Nade, Siri Behlol and many more from where sculptures and stupas were recovered are covered with modern villages and towns. Gurgatli excavation has also added 300 years more to the occupation period of the site. Previously, it was dated back to the Indo-Greeks. The sacred site of Mikha Sanda, Chanakaderi, Usse, Tarare and Ranigarh were excavated by the Japanese team from Kyoto University in collaboration with the Department of Archaeology and Museums, Government of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. The first 3 sites are associated with Vishwamitra Jataka. The Jataka is widely depicted in the art of Gandhara. Mikha Sanda is the sacred area from where stupas, chapels and cells from monks for monks were recovered, where the prince and his wife lived when they were banished from the court. Even San, the Chinese pilgrim, has given a detailed account of the monastery. At Chanakaderi was kept the miraculous elephant and Usse stupa, where the prince gave away his children in alms to the Brahmins. Tarali is one of the ideally located. It's mostly the people because Takhbai is one of the well-preserved sites, and it's on the World Heritage List, UNESCO World Heritage List. So due attention is given to that for the promotion and for the projection of that site. But if you compare it with Tarali, it's one of the ideally located site in Gandhara, and surrounded on all 4 sides by hills, and like in a bowl, all the stupas and monasteries or the cells, they are scattered. So it's one of the beautifully located site which I think the Directorate will promote in future. And mostly the sites are damaged by the treasure hunters. And Ranigarh is one of the largest sites which was excavated by the Japanese. And the most important feature of the site is that in the stupas they have got sockets for the coins, so they can easily date the different stupas from which period or from which king, during whose rule these stupas were constructed. And at the end, I would like to talk about the site of one of the quotation of Mr. Hardeeps, who was the curator of Peshawar, regarding Gandhara or the Gandhara art. Later he was appointed as Director General of Archaeological Survey of India while he was delivering a lecture to the Guides Cavalry in Mardan. In 1930s, he concluded his lecture by saying the school of Gandhara art sculpture flourished from about the 1st century to the 3rd century AD, but continued with diminished vigor until the 6th century AD. It influenced not only the art of India, of all India, but every part of the Buddhist world, Tibet, Ceylon, Burma, Siam, Java, as well as Central Asia, China, Korea, and Japan, and produced Asia's greatest artistic success, that is the Buddha image. So with this, I would like to thank you for listening to me for such a long time, and I will show you quickly the slides which you can see. I would request Sanjay We have got a beautiful documentary. I think this one is one of the perfect documentaries so far made on Gandhara. It's in German, but it's filmed in such a way that you don't need to learn German to understand that documentary. So you can watch it and you can understand whatever they are showing or whatever they are explaining to the viewers. This is the proper Gandhara valley. This is the Indiana of the swamps, and this is the Texila region. Use the hand mic. Yeah. Okay, you can do it. So you can see the three valleys, and these are mostly the sites which were excavated later on in the post-partition era. This is one of the most important sites which was excavated by Izmir or Esau, and this is the stupa of Butkara 3, Butkara 1, sorry. And mostly from the same stupa there was a potsherd recovered on which there is mentioned Dharma Rajika. So they think that this stupa, they are sure, they don't think, but it's sure that this stupa was constructed during Ashoka's time. And one of the most important things, the three stupas which were constructed during Ashoka's time, so they never changed their original plan. They still followed the same hemispherical stupas. And you can see some of the conjectural reconstruction. In the top you can see the different layers when it was constructed again and again. Sometimes it was damaged by the earthquake, sometimes by the invaders. And you can see the layout and the pillars, the Ashokan type of, though they are not Ashokan pillars, they are the Corinthian columns, and on top we have got the Ashokan line. So you can see they are a little bit haphazardly placed around the stupa, and you can see the reconstruction of the stupa over there. Next. Then this is the stupa of Pan, which was also excavated by the Italians with the collaboration of the Department of Archaeology, Department of Archaeology and Museums. So over here you can see that the pillars, they are on the floor, and later on they were shifted. You can show the next one. This is the stupa of Sedus, and you can see that the pillars now they are shifted to the top of the base of the stupa, and this become one of the most permanent feature of the Gandharan stupas. And you can see it's gaining much more height as compared to the previous Dharmarajika stupa. Now this is one of the most important sites which was excavated regarding which I was talking to you. It's the site of Butkara 3. So you can see the mud, they have dug out the mud cliff and they have made cells for the stupas. You can see inside the stupas, and they have recovered a lot of sculptures from this site. Then this is the Odigram, and you can see the bases of the stupas in the main city of Ora, ancient Ora of Alexander's time, and nowadays we call it Odigram. Then this is Barikot. Now large-scale excavation is going down on the site. Last year they have started it just to trace out the city plan or layout of the whole Barikot site, and it's the ancient Bazira of Alexander's time. Then this is the stupa in the main, but mostly the remains belongs to the Kushan period. The low level has got the Indo-Greek or Bactrian Greek or previous periods. Then this is Balaukili Gumpa, and mostly the people they used to say that the double dome was introduced in India by the Muslims. But this temple, it has got a double dome, which is also mentioned by the Stein, and they have done recently some conservation work and excavation around this temple is going on. So they have recovered a lot of stupas around it. Then Then this is one of the unexcavated stupa. Mostly the sites are endangered by the treasure hunters and they are doing illegal excavations. So you can see that there are a lot of space for excavating new archaeological sites and a lot of collaboration in this regard. The SAARC countries, they can do, and we can do joint ventures and excavations at different sites. This is the aerial photograph of Shekhan Deri. You have seen one of the slides which Fazal Dadkakar Saab has shown you regarding Sekar. So the site was excavated by Dr. Dani, but later on they stopped the excavations, and more recently it is covered by modern houses. Then this is the same Zaraderi site which is excavated by the Japanese. Next. And these are the different panels which were stored in a room to be reused or either they were replaced. This is the Jinnah Wali Deri, and the excavation is going on. This is the main monastery of Jinnah Wali Deri. And this is one, I was just trying to show one of the painting which was found from there. And because this whole monastery was burned down, and because of the burning, these pigments, they have become permanently, they've got a permanent impression on the mud, and later on they have recovered it from during excavation. But they are very fragmentary. And all these excavation, it was not just an excavation which the people they have conducted. These were systematically conducted excavation. Mostly there are three major journals which are published in Pakistan. One is Pakistan Archaeology, which is published by the Department of Archaeology and Museums, Government of Pakistan. Then another publication is Frontier Archaeology, which is published by our department, and the University of Peshawar is publishing Ancient Pakistan. So all the reports, whatever excavation they have done, so they have published most of them in their publications. The Italians, they have published regarding Butkara huge volumes. The Japanese recently, they have published a volume of Ranigat excavations. So all these excavations, they are later on, they have got the publication, and you can easily trace out the original place or the location of the exact location of the object which have been recovered during excavation. And due to excavation, they were able to trace out zonal workshops in the Swat Valley. Because there are small valleys in the Swat area, so there was zonal workshop. It's not a uniform kind of art which was previously taught. During Kushan time it has got a uniform, but before this we have got zonal workshop. Somewhere you will find Persian influence more dominant, somewhere you will find Roman influence more dominant. So these are some of the zonal schools which they have identified, and now you can clearly, when you are going to find out the sculptures, so you can clearly say that this sculpture belongs to this part of the Swat Valley or from the Peshawar or other parts of them. And then we have got a lot of museums which were established. Saidou Said Museum was established by the Department of Archaeology and Museums. The Government of Pakistan has got some beautiful collection of Gandhara sculptures, and the best Gandhara pieces are from Nimogram. It's one of the best pieces. If you see those sculptures, so it's worth seeing, and you should come to Pakistan to see all those places. And Chardara Museum, indeed, it has got mostly from Anda and Dere. These were excavated by Dani, and they wanted to establish a new museum in Chardara in 1960s. Finally, it was inaugurated in 70s. And then Charsada Museum is one of the reasons, but it hasn't got anything regarding Gandhara. The excavated material will be shifted. Only they have displayed few manuscripts. So from the site of Shekhan Deri and Bala Hisab, so that will be displayed in the museum. City Museum Gurgatri is showing the cultural profile of Peshawar city. And then Peshawar Museum, I don't have to say anything about that. And Hun Museum is one of the recently established museums. So thank you once again for listening to me and for taking more time as was. Any questions? Thank you, Mr. Nidullah Sharai, for the presentation. So I would like to open the floor for discussion. The floor is open for discussion. If you have any questions or comments on this presentation, please.
I was just wondering, you just said that if you could locate a number of workshops of this Gandhara sculptures made in that valley, a number of regional zonal shops. So, but could you also visualize that there were a number of resource areas for medium from where the stone was being derived, and so number of shapes and all?
I'll give you one of the recent example. I wanted to show some of the photographs, but then I avoided to show those photographs. Nowadays, it has become one of the most lucrative business in Pakistan, excavating archaeological sites and digging away and exporting the antiquities. So the people, they know that from where the sculptures, they were retrieving the stones for these sculptures. Recently, they have got some, they have confiscated some of the sculptures at Karachi. You might have seen in the newspaper. So those sculptures actually, it was a typical copy of the Peshawar Valley sculptures, but the stone was taken from the Swat Valley. So, and then there were major mistakes which they have done in the iconography. Like they have depicted Maitreya, and he's holding a lotus in hand instead of the flask, the hairstylism of Maitreya. So the people, they also know, and the Italians, they have worked, and mostly the sculptures which were excavated from the Taxila region. All of these sculptures, when they have done the analysis, so they came to know that all these sculptures, they were taken away from Gandhara and probably presented to those monasteries or to those stupas. And one of the most important things is that there is a lot of contact in ancient times also between the south and between the north. Because from the side of Cherpati, we have got a beautiful sculpture. We can call it the masterpieces from the Swat Valley or the region. So over there, they have recovered a slab which has got probably brought by somebody from South India. It's from Amravati style. The stone is of Amravati. From Shekhan Deri, they have recovered Katra Buddha from Mathura. So this is what we have got, a lot of things. And in Gandhara art, you've also got the influence of Mathura. You've got the Greek, Roman, Persian, everything you have. So I think the people, the people in the past, they were much more tolerant, and still they are very tolerant people, but represented in a totally different manner.
I would like to make a request. The speech which you discussed is very important. Could you please make arrangement to distribute the copies of your speech among the participants?
Yeah, I will submit the party because Sanjay has told us that you have to submit for the publication. But actually, before coming, we have got a Ramzan and you don't have to eat. And in the evening you eat a lot, so you can't concentrate on the work too much. So, and then on the next day I had to come to Colombo, so this was one of the major problems. So inshallah I will submit it when I go back, and I will give some new photographs also, because some of the sites I haven't got the photograph in my collection, so that's why I will include those photographs, and I'm sure I'm going to send it. Any question? Yes.
Well, one thing which I'm wondering about how you date all those stupa sites or monastic sites. One thing, because if you look at the stratigraphy and all, there is a lot of debate about even when we define early medieval. For instance, in Indian archaeology, we don't have indices for the early medieval in terms of pottery and in terms of ceramics. So that is a very obscure sort of area. Now, my question is how do you see the continuity of the site from the only to in the late phase? Or do you just follow the same pattern as Tilgupta or that kind of?
No, actually, mostly everywhere. I think it's in the Buddhist world. It's the practice that they keep something with the ashes or the bones of whosoever they're buried in the stupa. So mostly from the main stupa core, you will find out that with the ashes coins of the different kings and who were ruling or during whose time those stupas were constructed. And as I told you that in Ranighat, they have got special at this site of Aziz Devi, we have got the stair risers, and behind the stair risers they have placed the coins of the different rulers. So mostly we are going on numismatic grounds, then the comparative study of the pottery, because mostly from the sites they have recovered pottery, and stratigraphy they keep in mind, and these are the techniques which they are doing. Mostly we haven't got any scientific lab in Pakistan or dating techniques which can, scientific dating techniques which can be done over there. So mostly the people who, the foreign missions, they take away the samples and they do the C14 dating and these kind of other kind of techniques of dating over there, and then they give up the new dates for the different archaeological sites. But mostly we are following the numismatic, the architectural, then the masonry. These are the different tools which they are utilizing or they are giving for the periodization of the different sites.
So, any more questions, comments?
And thank you for listening patiently.
So first I'd like to thank Dr. Kakar and Nadiullah Shirai for the presentation, and they discuss they present very minutely archaeological activity from pre-independence to recent time. They particularly categorize that military activity, that was the immature type of archaeological activity, and the pre-independence period, post-independence period, and supported with this foreign mission as well. And they clearly mention about recent discoveries or recent activities, recent excavations in Pakistan. So I would like to thank both of you for a beautiful presentation, and I would like to thank all of you for your valuable comments. And I would like to conclude this session now. Thank you all.